coming back to school with me. We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. Thanks for coming to the classroom. Today I'm going to be doing a special episode taking a look at games which can develop fine motor skills. This, as we would call them in the board gaming industry, board gaming world, we would call them dexterity games. But from a teaching perspective, we're looking at the fine motor skills that will be developed through these games. This is actually coming about because a friend of mine, just this past week, at the very young age of 49, had a stroke. Now, luckily, the stroke was very mild, and as I know right now, he's been doing much better. He's in recovery, and he's just lost some of the sensation in his fingertips and in his toes, making it a little bit difficult to walk, and some of the motor control of his hand and fingers to grasp things and move things is not there yet, but it is on the recovery. And one of the things he was told to do by the doctors and nurses is to practice using his hands in different ways, shuffling cards, squeezing weights and things to just give him some strength back. And that got me thinking about all the different games that we have available to us that can be used to help students and to help people who have needs to improve their fine motor skills. So I thought I would take a look at that today. As I've mentioned in my previous video about the health benefits of board games, there's a lot that board games can offer in regards to the fine motor skills of people who need developing them. Everything from moving pieces to rolling dice, and rolling dice with control so they're not going off the board or smashing into the pieces. The simple things like that can do a lot for people who need to develop those skills, and it's just it's a fun way to practice. It's a lot better than just going to a physiotherapy and rehab center where you're just doing repetitive actions over and over again for the sole purpose of getting better, which I mean is of course the point. But if you can do that kind of thing but be having fun while you're doing it, then it just makes it that much better, and it makes them more motivating too. So that's what I wanted to look at today. So a lot of these games that you see before you, cockroach poker, timeline, roll for it, paperback, sleeping queens, have cards. And with those games, you're going to need to shuffle the cards. So right away, shuffling the cards is one thing that you can be doing. As I've mentioned, things like roll for it are you're rolling dice, and you need to learn to roll with control. And so that's another thing that can be done that will help to develop those kinds of skills. There's, any game you're going to be looking at, there's a wider range of things that you can be doing in a very simple sense. So I think in a very basic level, board games, any board games are going to be helping to develop those skills. Even like I said, just moving pieces, rolling dice, and whatever it is that you're doing, spinning, flicking a spinner, if it has a spinner, whatever it is, there's something that can be done to develop and to help your fine motor skills. But let's look at things progressing. I'm going to start off with some very simple games, some very basic things, and move into the more complex and finally into the very intricate and difficult in the fine motor, where even people without fine motor difficulties may find it tricky. So a couple very popular common dexterity games that people may know would be something like Jenga or Crokinole. But ones which you may not know, which are also great games and good for developing your dexterity, which aren't very difficult, would be something like Ice Cool or Pitch Car. Getting to games which require higher levels of dexterity, you might look at games like Flick 'em Up or Animal Upon Animal. And at the highest levels of difficulty, you can play the old classic game like Operation, or there's another great game which is called Junk Art. If you really want to challenge and you want to improve your dexterity, fine motor skills, then look at some of those games which are out there nowadays which have miniatures in them and take a hand at painting those. That really takes some good hand-to-eye coordination and some fine motor skills to be able to paint those things. And so that's going to be it for today's episode. If you have any questions about any of the games I mentioned today or anything about developing fine motor skills, perhaps you'd like to mention your favorite dexterity game that I didn't mention today, please leave me a message in the comment section below. It's always great to hear from the viewers. But until next time, I'm Craig Thompson-Wood, the board game teacher, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with